can.
Okay, so we're live. Welcome back to the Magic Minds podcast. I'm Matt Burke. You're watching and listening to Delivery's #1 podcast. Yup, Deliveries. Yup, the flats. On the show today, I'm joined by the beautiful, the wonderful Brona Malone from Power and You Coaching. Brona, what's the crack?
How are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Delighted to be here.
Really good.
I'm really good.
Really good.
Yeah.
Guys, this is our first show in 2025 and I'm absolutely delighted to get Brown on the show. As I say, our company is called Power and You Coaching. She's going to share with us her magic of being a transformational coach and how she works, what way she works with people, what's the common themes that she may see with people. She's a spiritual wizard.
Thank you. I've never been called that before, but thank you.
And I'm telling you that from the inside out rather than the outside in. Brona is my partner, my girlfriend. And I see how she works. I see how she lives her life. And it's all one. And I'm not just saying that to blow smoke up your hole. This is the truth. You know, anybody that I work with, whether it be the guys from the Light Being Group, Tommy Ellis or Jeff Thompson, I want to know how do they live their life and how do they embody their work. And that's what Brona does, as she calls it. Her modality is transformation coaching. So a little bit about yourself, Brona. Tell us, what is the work that you do? What would you like to share with people?
So yeah, firstly, it on the outside, say if it was a shop front that I don't have a shop, but what I have is, it's a non-bricks and mortar business because I work online. I've always worked online. So, but at the shop front, what I say, is the service is transformational coaching. But yeah, it goes deeper. There's more than that. Like I graduated in becoming a coach back in 2012. Like it took me 2 years to move through that program, but at the same time, because of where I was at in my own life, I was exploring, I was looking at different things. So it comes under the umbrella of coaching, but yeah, there's a lot more that's gone into it than that.
So I'm always interested in people's backstories, how they got into what they do. So would it be okay for us to go back a little bit and tell us what has shaped you? What are the stories in your life that led you to coaching or transformational coaching, or the feel or the need that you wanted to change things? This is important for me to understand, and no doubt for people listening and watching.
Yeah, I always knew I wanted to help people. I can remember being 11 years old and sitting and contemplating, God, like, what do I want to do? What do I want to be? And just being like, imagine getting paid to help people. Like, I know I love helping people, but imagine actually like getting paid for that. And so that was in there from an early age. And then came the, okay, well, how is it I'm actually going to help people? Worked in sales, worked in retail. I thought I'd be a social worker, went to UCD, did social science. From there, if you want to go on and be a social worker, there would have been more, like a postgraduate. And I was just on that course going, no, this isn't for me. And yeah, like I'd say there in my 20s then, like I was traveling, I was doing different things, but I wasn't happy. Like I was enjoying myself. I was enjoying what life had to offer. I enjoyed traveling, but underneath I was looking for something, and I was looking for something external. And I always thought, like, once I get into the work that I know I'm here to do, like that, I'll be happy. So there was a real future day fantasy going on. When I do this, constantly postponing happiness. And at the same time, like I was working in jobs that I knew weren't right for me. Some of them I absolutely loved, and some of them were very formative, especially when I was in my like late teens, early 20s. But then, yeah, I was just lost. And it just got to a point when I was 26, 27, where I was like, I can't do this anymore. You know, on the outside, I was doing quite well. Like I had gotten promotions in companies, had the car, had a lot of clothes, and I used to work in the clothing industry. So that's why like I had all the nice clothes. I loved clothes. And on the inside, I just wasn't happy. And that, how that came out was the weekends became where I was looking for pleasure. I wasn't happy doing what I was doing Monday to Friday. And yeah, like I was partying it up. I was, seeking those what I would call secondary pleasures, like alcohol, partying, being slightly debaucherous with life. And then it just reached a point where I was like, no. And I remember like one of my best mates, we've been best mates since I was 4 going on 5. Like we met our very first day of school. And I remember her aunt at the time was a nun, and I think maybe she had left. She was an ex-nun, but still a nun in some capacity, and she was actually teaching Reiki. Now, I hadn't even heard of Reiki. I didn't know anything about it, but she was like, Bridge is running this weekend. Do you want to come? And I was like, yes. And I think something changed from there, because from there she had given us, like, I think it was a Reiki level 1, and she'd given us like a 21-day cleanse where you're making time for yourself every day. I don't know whether it was like 5 minutes or 15 minutes where you're just giving yourself this time. Like it was, you were giving Reiki to yourself. But I saw that as being the start of something, because I actually stopped. It was even just the stillness. In that stillness of regularly taking that time, something else started slipping in. And at the time, I, I would live in Meath. I'm from Navan. And at the time, I think I was living in Dublin. So we're on the east coast of Ireland. But I stopped going out on the weekends, and we would drive to Sligo on the Sunday to go surfing. And it was like, it was just doing something new. And you know what happens when we do something new. It opens up new parts of our brain. Like we start thinking just a little bit differently from the regular everyday thinking that we've been so conditioned
So
to think.
are you saying to me all of those years till that pivotal point that you were living the same humdrum, familiar pattern program that everyone else doing the work, going out, having a few drinks, living the life, trying to fill something that didn't exactly fill it till you started being still and coming inside and touching into that deeper part of you?
Yeah, that's exactly it. That is exactly it. Like, I remember traveling Australia when I was 23, and we were camping on the west coast. Like, it was absolutely stunning, and like it's beautiful moments. But I remember waking up, and I'd have my journal. I'd started journaling. That's when I really started journaling in my life. And it was pure anxiety. It's like, what am I going to do with my life? Da, da, da. There was a pressure. It was like I needed to find something so that I could prove to myself. I didn't know it at the time, but to prove to myself I'm enough, I'm worthy. I was looking for work to give me that identity. So I was like, ooh, like I can still remember being in the most idyllic place. Like we were sleeping in national parks where like you're going to sleep with the sun going down, you're waking up with the sun coming up. Like, talk about being next to nature. I wasn't fully present
Okay.
enjoying it, because I was like, what am I doing with my life? There was like, my ego was, yeah, like it was fairly loud.
Right. Amazing, amazing. So with that own awareness of transformation within yourself, is that helpful now when you go into working with clients, when you work with people, you use that piece that you understand what it's like to live the humdrum life, the every, and I'm not knocking this by any way.
Yeah,
People are unconscious to this, right?
yeah.
But you woke up to it. So you can help people with that. What is, and we know this is a common thing when you work with people, me and you do the work. What is the common things that people come to you with when they're looking for help? When they sign up or ring you for power new coaching, what are they looking for you to help them with? What's the commonality?
They're feeling lost. They're feeling disconnected. They're unsure of what way to move forward. Like, over the years, because I started doing this work back in 2008, 2009. That's when I had left Ireland at this stage, was living in South Korea teaching kindergarten, and I ended up hearing about coaching at the time, which was relatively new. Like this is 2008, 2009. But my cousin was living in Australia and she was like, ooh, I worked with this lady. And so I ended up signing up for a program that was based in Australia. And from there, then I started working immediately with people. And it doesn't, like, when I look, like, externally, it can look like people have lots of different problems, right? But underneath it, it's the same. It's the I'm lost. It can be that the old is breaking down, they're coming up against patterns where they're unsure of how to move forward. They don't have that inner connection, or else they do have that inner connection where their intuition's telling them, look, this isn't right, whether it's the job, whether it's the relationship, whether they've been through a breakup, or whether they've just, come to a point in their lives where they're like, I just want to be free. I don't feel that I'm being myself. Like, on the inside, that's a certain way. On the outside, it can look like multiple different problems, but it's about getting underneath. And that's what I love about the work that I've been guided into myself, was to just learn how to go underneath. And when you get underneath, you see it's actually all the same. It's all the same patterns. They're quite common patterns that our egos would have us believe are very different. Our problems are very unique to us. But underneath, there's just very similar patterns.
So what you're telling me and what I'm picking up from you to help with the listeners is that there's a lot of unconsciousness in people.
Yeah, there is. Like,
And how do we help them with this unconsciousness, these beliefs, these systems that they're unconscious, these identities they have about themselves? How do we help them, as you say, how do we help them free from that?
well, firstly, it's just meeting them where they are, right? Which, like, the very first thing when someone like arrives on my doorstep, like, we're getting very clear of like, why are you here? Like, what brings you to this moment? And from there, like, because I've been doing this for such a long time, a pattern of the best way to work in order to help people get the most out of this work, it's emerged. And it's always, a powerful thing when you start asking, okay, I don't want this. This is what I don't want. And we're very good at knowing
Great.
what we don't want,
Okay,
right?
brilliant.
Very good. But it's like, okay, if I don't want this, what do I want? That simple question, right? Even that simple question, it can be challenging. So it's like, okay, let's just start here. Start with what you don't want. Then what do you want? And from there, like, I'll take people through a process where we're looking at what are the patterns, because a lot of times people will think, okay, my problem is that people are doing this thing to me. Maybe it's the boss. People are being mean, or I'm finding myself in this situation the whole time. And it can look like it's the external world. It's very easy to put blame on the external world. Like, I'm feeling this way because so and so did this to me, or so and so said this to me, or this thing happened to me. But when you get underneath it, like, it's really powerful to look at, well, what, like, if we find ourselves in situations that we don't like being in, it's looking at, okay, what's the pattern in me that's actually resonating? Like, what's the pattern in me that's matching this shitty pattern or this shitty situation that I don't want to be in? Because if we're forever waiting for the external world to change, like, firstly, it's never going to happen. The change has to take place and start taking place within you first and foremost. But, like, that's a recipe for anxiety. If you're waiting for so and so to change, and so and so, if you need so and so to do something in order for you to be happy, that is a recipe for anxiety, because your energy is actually out here. It's out here going, and you start looking to control what's out here. You're looking to control the uncontrollable instead of, like, being connected to your power. And power, first and foremost, has been very much at the center. Like, power in you coaching, it's very much at the center of this work of, like, you're really, really powerful, but it's about learning how to tap into it and harness it so that it serves you, it serves your heart. like that you get to honor your soul rather than using your power to serve the things you actually don't want happening for you and through you and in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what you're basically saying to me is that you're getting people to turn back in. Stop looking for the job, stop looking for the relationships, stop looking for the cars, the money, the clothes, to empower you when you're already powerful. Because would you believe that society gives us the illusion that it's all outside of us? Look over the garden fence, look at their garden, look at their car, look at this, look, and all of a sudden they're always looking out rather than looking in. You're getting people to turn in.
Yeah, like it's very conditioned because we can say society wants us to look outside, but like what's society made up of? It's made up of all of us, you know? So, like, yeah, it's very easy, you know, to wake up and to associate ourselves with being matter. Like, say, when I'm working with people, from day one, like literally day one,
From the dot.
from, from
From the
day dot.
from the dot. All right, Oprah. I love it.
But like my very first week of coaching school, there was just a voice that dropped in and it was like, you are always going to work with people across the four bodies. Now, I knew what the four bodies were: spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical, but I didn't at that time grasp just how powerful, you know, this guidance, this advice coming through, how powerful it is. And it's only when maybe about 2 years later when I was putting together my first workshop, and at this stage I'd been working with clients. I was calling myself four body coaching, and I was looking up the symbology of the number four. I was looking up at, you know, and the number four comes across in like spiritual and religious traditions, but it also comes across in science, you know, that there's four states of matter, there's the four directions, there's the four valves of the heart. So, like in nature, things that are whole in nature come in four. So, us humans are actually made up of four. You know, there's different levels of us, but I would say there's four bodies: the spiritual, the mental, the emotional, and the physical. And so on one side of this spectrum, it's an energy spectrum. On one side of this spectrum, we're matter. Like you and I, we're sitting here, we're separate. There's a Matt, there's a Brona. Okay.
Allegedly.
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 On the other side of the spectrum, where everything is energy, and even Einstein said that, everything is energy. Like we're more energy in space than we are matter, and like that, you know, that's science saying that. And as well as that, like scientists have even proven that as humans we actually emit light. Like they have measured light being emitted from humans, right? So on one side we're matter, on the other side, like we're light and we are energy. So a lot of times, and I know this was the case for me in my 20s and 30s, I was looking to solve everything from the level of the physical and then the mental. Like we're so conditioned to look at life through these lenses of the physical, like what's in front of you, and then the mental, okay, like, you know, mind over matter, let's do this. But the more I was delving into this work for myself first and foremost, and then the more I was working with clients, it was just seeing how powerful and how important the emotional is, as well as the spiritual, you know, because the spirit is the source of everything. Like it's the part of you that is connected to what is unseen. And there's so much information. Like I always think back to the tsunami in 2010 in Thailand, where all the wildlife in the days before the tsunami apparently was eerily silent because all the nature had cleared out.
Wow.
And so, like, you know, the animals, they're, and the birds, like they're all so tuned in to this inner nature that's unspoken. They weren't seeing like what was coming, but you know, they could feel it. They went, they left, and they were in higher ground, right? And as humans, we have that capacity within ourselves. If we're not solely focused on out here and what the physical eyes can see, like there's what's going on, you know, through the eyes of the soul through the eyes of a higher consciousness. Like we have access to that as well. So yeah, it's about tapping into that and then using that, like going within and using that to help navigate, and even, you know, what can look like a problem at the level of the physical isn't actually a problem when you look at it from a different and higher level. You know, sometimes it's actually not a problem at all. It's a blessing. It's an invitation for you to, that life is given you so that you actually get to be true to who you are and what you came to be, which is a powerful soul.
Awesome. I see how you work through this next question, but I want you to share this with people. And I think it's really important because you do the work, you do the internal navigation and exploration. So, what do you do when you face difficult, challenging, adverse event? How do you stay centered? What's your practice and what's your go-to things to do for people that are sitting here listening? We're in 2025 and people are facing challenging times in themselves. How do you stay centered when you meet challenges?
So, like, well, as you know, there's tools that I use to help me stay connected with myself, like journaling, meditation, you know. How I navigate adverse things now compared to, you know, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it's slightly changed and it's grown. But here's something I've noticed, right? If we have a vision, right? And I absolutely love visioning. I've always used visioning. To me, visioning is where we're connecting with that part of us that's intuitive, that part of us that has access to a higher consciousness, right? Tuning into that and opening up to all possibilities, right? What I've noticed is something like a vision, and it can be as simple as, you know, I said at the beginning, what do you not want? Okay, what do you want? And when you know what you want, there's actually a frequency underneath what you want. So if I was to say to you, hey, I'd love a new relationship, or I'd love this change, I'd love this job, I'd love this thing, right? Underneath it, there's a frequency. And a lot of times when we're looking for a relationship or we're looking for something new, we're usually looking underneath the thing. We're actually looking for whether it's more love, more peace, more confidence, more joy, right? And when I'm working with people, like I will help them see that. So I help them really work at the level of emotions and energy and frequency, because that's where you get change, right? That's where you get the change that it can deeply transform, and it just makes the difference between having a life and living a life, right? But at this, at this level of change, you're visioning, you're inviting in more love, more peace, more joy. This is so powerful. It's so powerful that immediately, nearly immediately, it starts to bring up everything that isn't love, that isn't peace, that isn't joy. It starts to bring, the unconsciousness rises to the surface. It's like, right, okay, you want more love, you want more peace, deal with this stuff, right?
Wow. Brilliant.
So because of that, now when adverse stuff comes up, it's like, okay, this is serving me. This is serving me in some way. So, you're already even not being in the identity of the victim, where this is happening to me. Like, no, it's happening through me. Like, it's happening for me, and it's helping me see whatever it is I need to see. And a lot of times it's an opportunity to clear off the past. It's an opportunity to clear off what doesn't serve, what's not working. When adverse stuff comes up and we, come back to what's going on within ourselves, like, it gives us an idea of what programs are here. And when you start seeing things, you can start changing things so that, like, yeah, you're getting to use everything for your good.
And I love that about you. When you experience something going through your system, energy moving, and you're clearing, you go to work. Like we were talking today, and you were talking about stuff moving through you. Straight away, you're on your pad and your pen, and you are doing the work. You turned in. Like, I love that you turn in, you turn to your Course in Miracles, you turn to your practice, your meditation, you go to work with it, and you don't fight it. It's incredible. I know this for sure from my observations of myself, from you, from other people. Stuff comes up, i.e., shame and guilt. And why do we allow ourselves to feel that shame, that guilt, when we've done absolutely nothing wrong? And it's not welcome in this moment, and it's based on an illusion.
Yeah.
Can you talk around that?
So why do we allow ourselves?
Yeah.
First off, in the beginning, I didn't even know what they were.
Right.
I didn't know. I had no emotional vocabulary for guilt, shame. I didn't even know what was moving through. It would just come up as a thing of like, this is really uncomfortable. And it came up as me not wanting to deal with my stuff and going out partying at the weekend, or flying off the handle, being in blame mode. Well, she said this to me. Like, there was a lot of drama, right? That's how it showed up, because I didn't even know what I was feeling a lot of the time. Now that I'm even more aware of what I'm feeling, that stuff comes up. Like, it'll come up in situations now. What I've noticed is it's coming up as a pattern. It's coming up as my body simply got used to running this pattern, and it doesn't know any different. So it's just replaying the past, because what I've seen it in myself, I've seen it with clients, is that, if we want to be happy and create a future that's different, from our past, we have to think differently in the future compared to our past. We have to feel differently. We have to relate to ourselves differently. Like, I once heard that how you see yourself determines your experience of life, and that's so true, right? And so with all of this, like, we feel it because we've just been so conditioned. Like, because when we're born, we don't have free will. We have hundreds of energy circuits that are just running through our bodies. We don't have free will. So automatically, these energy circuits get invested into the family, whatever way the family thinks and believes. Like, you're investing your energy circuits into thoughts, stories, and beliefs that you're not even aware of. The town you grew up in, the religion, the culture, these all have an impact, and they become so ingrained you don't even realize it. And a lot of that patterning is like done and ingrained by the time you're 7. So then when we're older, and like, yeah, when we start waking up, we start seeing, like, again, there's exercises I bring clients through where they start seeing, like, hang on a second, the same pattern that was here, was here, was here, was here. And they start seeing, like, what if I change the pattern? What if I actually change the pattern? That means situations that I'm in would play out differently. So now, like, I honestly, like, a lot of this work has been about being completely non-judgmental, right? Because sometimes people don't even want to explore what's uncomfortable because there's a judgment that, oh, I'm just being really negative, or, this is me. There's a lot of blame. And society as well has that conditioning of the stigma of, if, say, mental health issues are coming up, like, you're not being strong. And just remind me to come back to that in a minute, because that's really important.
You're asking Dory from Finding Nemo. I'm trying to follow you here.
Okay.
No, I will. I'll remember. Go on.
Okay. You hope you better.
I will, yeah.
So, what was I saying before that?
Exactly.
So, I was talking about, so society conditioning, like, once we start letting that stuff up onto the surface, right? Once we can see it. So there's a process of not bypassing it, connecting with it, and then it becomes a thing of, when it comes up, what stories, what thoughts are there? Not getting deeply, not falling into the mind being the one that's looking to run the show. But from there, like, and this is how this work is evolving for me, as you know, like through working with Tommy, there comes a point where it's like, this thing is happening. The past is looking to play out in the present moment. And it's about changing that and stopping, like literally stopping the past coming up, like conditioning the body, feeding the body a different frequency. Like it becomes this dance. It becomes this dance of not bypassing, letting whatever up onto the surface that needs to come up, like in a non-judgmental way, and then using it to serve your good, like using it to help you strengthen, using it as an invitation to be in your heart and not come out of your heart. Like there's a dance, and I'm at the part of the dance where I'm seeing that some feeling patterns, they're literally ego stopping strategies. They're looking to completely stop you from being in the heart. Things like, say, I was working with a lady there recently, her stopping strategy is disappointment, right? She will find a way unconsciously to be in the energy of disappointment, and it stops her from being what she is and what she wants to be doing. There's also the critical, like, you know, the critical criticism and critical thinking. That's another ego stopping strategy. Like for me, anger is the quickest way
Yeah, I know.
to
No. You're good as gold.
Anger's the quickest way to keep us out of the heart. Like if we look at the energy centers, the first, the second, the third, the ego here, the center for power, right? And stuff can be coming up. And, you know, if you start moving it up through the center line of your body, you're moving it up, you're surrendering it higher. Like it's, you surrender it up to come into freedom with yourself, right? Here is the step before the heart. So what's the quickest way to not have you in your heart is to find something to be angry about. And I unconsciously use that for a long time. Like I was saying I wanted love. I was saying I wanted a relationship, but like my body was, and my history was bringing me in a different direction. There was parts of me that didn't feel safe being in my own heart. And, you know, like I remember my friend and I used to joke about this. She was like, all a fella had to do was like it. And you were like, oh my God. Like I would find a way to just, the third, like shut it down, you know, find something wrong. That's the third, you know. So stopping strategies, a lot of repetitive. Now I'm saying repetitive.
Yeah.
Because it's those ones that keep coming up. And it's more that the body got used to wiring and firing. It's not coming up because of something that's happened externally. And a lot of those are just stopping strategies that are stopping you. Like it's your unconscious looking to stop you from moving up into the heart and actually being who and what you want to be and creating what you came here to create, and like standing in the light.
Wow, that's an incredible answer. So you're telling me basically, like, like what my question is, why do we feel the shame and the guilt? It can be a stopping strategies.
Yeah.
It can prevent us from feeling actual joy in the present moment. And also, what you're saying to me is, it's patronistic, it's programmatic. It's familiar and it's repetitive and it's wired and fired into our systems, and we have to unwire and unfire and undo that system
Yeah.
to really feel joy. And it's living in joy, living in love, living in peace. It's not familiar to a lot of people because they grew
No.
up in an environment where that's not the,
Yeah.
it's not, their life is not predicated on those.
Yeah.
It's the lack, it's the scarcity, it's the misery. And then if they start feeling like they get a few quid or things go well in them, the guilt will come up, the shame will come up, and then we feed that. You said to me to remind you about something
Strong.
Yup.
And you know what? Even what you've spoken about, like I was like, we could go in there. We'll come back to strong in a minute.
All right.
But I just want to just address what you've spoken about, which is
Yeah.
where I have had clients
Yeah.
who I have watched them beautifully navigate breakups, heart-breaking, wrenching breakups and betrayals. And I've looked at them like use these things in their lives like as doorways for their greatest light. Like these are women that like show up, like they are doing the work, they're showing up for themselves. And I watched one in particular. She is a beautiful being. And it was just so powerful to watch her over the years, you know, navigate life after being through this breakup. And then we were chatting and she met somebody, right? Met somebody, beautiful, lovely relationship, a man who wants to show up. And then we're on a call and she's like, there was something, I can't even remember specifically what it was, but there was something stopping her from being in that moment. Like the body, the past will find a way. It's nearly like, this is so good. What's good? The shoe on the other foot is going
Something's
to
gonna
drop
go wrong.
something. Like it can feel really vulnerable.
Oh yeah.
Being like, it's really vulnerable to start opening up to love, to peace. You know, they can be really vulnerable, you know? So that was just something, because I've seen it all the time. Like, it can be where you really start opening up to love and peace, but it can even be like in another area of your life that is seemingly completely unrelated. Will start, like this area starts going well, another area will kick up. So you're not getting to enjoy this one. And again, that's just another way that the unconscious will look to keep you at the emotional baseline that you've been at your whole life.
And that's so familiar to a lot of people. And I was running the men's circle last night, and one of the lads said that he's afraid to be happy. He's
Yeah.
afraid to celebrate wins because something bad is going to happen. He may lose a parent, lose a friend, lose. So he was like, I don't want to celebrate. I
Yeah.
want to stay safe. I want to stay safe. And that's what people want to do. I remember my ma talking to me, and she had a frozen shoulder and something going on. And I says, how are you doing today? And she says, I'm okay. And I said, but you don't look like you're in a lot of distress as you did the last few days. Or I don't want to celebrate. I don't want to get excited. I don't want to say it in case it comes
Just
back.
yet.
And I was like, wow, ma. I says, like, celebrate this moment. You're not in pain. You're good. Everything's well. And that's just her history playing out in the present moment.
Yeah, yeah. The safety is important, right? And it's even interesting that both of us, when you were, you know, speaking about the men's circle and someone saying, you know, it just doesn't feel safe. Safety is so important. Like, it is one of those primary, do I call it like primary energy emotions that needs to be in place, right? Like, it's so, for the nervous system, if the nervous system doesn't feel safe, if you don't feel safe in your body, the nervous system affects all other systems in the body, right? Not feeling safe in your body actually creates a lot of stress, a lot of cortisol. And what happens is we all have that need for safety. And if we don't get it, you know, at 0 to 7, and like 0, 0, 0 blame. Like you're never kind of going, well, I didn't get it.
Yeah.
They should have given it to me. Like, that's just another way the ego likes to keep you stuck in blame. For whatever reason, we can grow up where, you know, I was someone who was definitely sensitive. So, you know, there was things that could have happened where I didn't feel safe, right? So what happens is when we're older and we don't feel safe, we'll look to create safety. But if we're looking to create it through fear, we'll stay small. like, that client of yours, I don't want to celebrate because I just want to keep things as they are now. It's safe here. Like, we will stay in the same job. We won't, even though we're miserable, our boss is whatever, we're too afraid to move into the unknown, where like the unknown is really powerful, but like we want to stay safe. And it's the same as love. Like, I stayed safe. I said I wanted love, but I was playing it really safe. I wasn't open, right? And so what happens is, consciously I'm like, I want love, I want love, I want love. And it's not happening. And little did I know, like, my foot is on that inner conscious brake. It's me that's actually stopping the whole show. And what happens is, when we're looking to create safety through fear, through the shadow, it results in stagnancy. It results in feeling like you're literally just swimming in a pond of the past. It's murky energy. Whereas when you honor that safety, but learn how to create safety from within, not without. So you're not creating safety by staying in the relationship that doesn't work for you, the job that doesn't work for you, by saving up a load of money, like whatever it is, you come within. And when you can create that for yourself within, like, it's such a game changer. And safety, when created internally, through light, through love, feeding it, like feeding your body that, like, it's vibrancy. You're able to move forward in life, and it's very different. So I just wanted to speak into that when you brought that up.
Oh, I love your fucking attention to detail. It's brilliant. Do you still have something to tell me about Strong?
I do.
I get brownie points joy for this. I
You did.
listen. I listen diligently.
So, Strong. I would have heard it over and over and over again, especially when clients come to me in those first few sessions. And they're opening up, and a lot of times people haven't even let themselves feel what was there, because they were like, no, I needed to be strong. Like, there's a real idea, like thought pattern, that is very activated in the collective, that it's weak. It's weak to feel your feelings. It's weak to cry. It's weak to show emotion. It's weak to be vulnerable. And like, what that is that's the word strong, that is from the patriarchy. It's a very, like, old, like, in order to be strong, it's the old stoic, hardened strong, right? Whereas when you redefine strong, right? The new strong is that, like, you're connected to your heart. You're connected to your heart.
Beautiful.
And it's strong when you're in your heart and able to create, like, an inner stability of you being in your heart. And it's safe for you to be in your feelings. And it's your feelings that then guide you forward. So not only, like, you're intuitive, right? And, like, that's so important. That's so important. And I even said to myself before meeting you, where I had been, some of my experiences were with men who were not in any way connected to their heart, right? Don't get me wrong, they were beautiful people, and I could see their beautiful heart, but they had no connection to their emotional body. And as a result, they were playing out. When you don't have a connection to your emotional body and you're holding on to stuff from your past, it can show up as addiction to certain emotions, addiction to, like, lying, hiding, cheating, right?
Me, yeah. All of
Yeah,
that.
yeah, and
Scared little boy.
yeah, and I remember saying to myself, I was like, someone who is not comfortable with being themselves, someone who is not comfortable with their own emotions, they're not going to be number one comfortable with mine. And like, I'm very in tune with mine, as we know.
Yeah.
And at the same time, like if they're not telling the truth to themselves, they're not going to be able to tell the truth to me.
Bullshit, yeah.
And this was where I would be, and like my system is quite intuitive. So you could be telling me something, I'm picking on what's going on behind you that you're not even actually aware of
I think
sometimes.
we both have an antenna for that.
You do, and I love that about you.
I'm laser focused on that.
And yeah, I remember saying to myself, you know, am I okay with a man that cries? Because I'm saying I want a man to be in his heart, but am I okay, or how comfortable am I? You know, and I've had male clients, they cry, no problem. And I really sat with it. And I remember making it was a very conscious decision of, I would rather a man who cries than a man who doesn't. And look what shows up.
Ta-da! As you were talking, I'm looking into your eyes, and you could see me.
I could see it.
I was nearly crying.
Yeah, you were well enough. What was that about?
I just when you just start talking about love, and I know that you're just pure love, and what we have is pure love, and I can tap into that. I just cry. The tears just come. It's incredible. It's a beautiful thing to be able to do.
Yeah. And for me, that's a strong man.
Yeah, I remember my dad's passing, and this lady or psychotherapist said to me, "It's okay to fall apart," and I'm like, "I'm strong. I'm not falling apart. I'm love. Love doesn't fall apart. The heart doesn't fall apart. Peace doesn't fall apart. I get it, like strong, stoic. I get all that, but I can do both. I
Yeah.
can be soft. I can be compassionate. I can be resilient. I don't need to fall apart. My dad never fell apart. 13 years of cancer. Love doesn't fall apart, you know. You can cry. You can have panic. You can have shakes in the body. You can still carry on. You can still turn up as love, you know.
Yeah. And I think the important thing to acknowledge with you is that to get you to that place, in the past, there would have been times where, and I know was the case for me, it was just because I didn't know any better. There was the falling apart, which, you know, like there's a place for it, because sometimes that falling apart is a stripping away of what doesn't serve. And it's actually, when you can be in it non-judgmentally, you know, because in the beginning, I didn't know what I was feeling. So when I gave myself permission to just let it up to the surface, like, you know, it was a lot because I'm quite an emotional person. But over times, that then has, would I say, come back to center? It stopped being all or nothing, and it came back to balance. You know, it came back to balance.
For me, falling apart was hiding in the flat, not showing up, drinking, arguing with people. That to me, that was synonymous of falling apart. Crying, not showing up to help me, man. That's for me. What I said was, that's not what love does.
I get you.
That's not what peace does. That's not what joy does. That's not what compassion. For me, falling apart felt selfish.
Yeah.
And my work with my dad's passing, and the work we do together, is to be selfless as best I can when I observe this body system. Before we get into kind of relationships for people to understand, was there any kind of, I don't want to use the word failures or difficult challenges that you've learned from that has helped you on your path? Because people may look at you and you're very angelic in the way you speak, and you're gentle, and think, oh, you've got it sorted and everything's fine. Was there any challenges or difficulties that you have experienced that helped shape you in your work that you do?
Yeah.
Failures. I don't use the word failures, but
No, all good. And I will speak to that. I just want to say one last thing on the falling apart.
okay.
I think what's really good here is sometimes, you know, we can say falling apart. You and I, different definitions there of what that was. Do you know what I mean? So you, when you're falling apart, like your, you know, your lifestyle, say a little bit more, would we say debaucherous? Like
Debaucherous.
debaucherous.
Yes, debaucherous.
Yeah, whereas when
Debaucherous.
how I would define falling apart is like just letting everything like, taking a couple of days out, for myself kind of a thing. So I think that's important because, we can be talking about the same thing, not knowing we've got two different complete definitions. And I think that's important in a relationship. So I
Yeah.
just wanted to speak into that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's me sorted. So choose which definition you'd like. You want the Brona one A or
No,
mine
no,
would be...
no, no. It's for
No.
understanding.
Cause. And language can sometimes trip people up.
Yeah.
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 So we were talking about failures.
Yeah.
I don't use the word failures, learnings.
Oh, God, yeah. So, like, oh my God. Depending on how you define a failure.
Yeah,
Because, loads. Like, it depends how you define it. Like, for sure. I mean, I run Power New Coaching now, full time. This is my third time. It was my third attempt to go full time. Like, it took 3 goes.
This is important.
Yeah.
This is really important.
If we look at everything, like, I suppose one of my biggest lessons in life has been around my love life, right? Because it was something I always wanted. I always had an idea of the kind of relationship that I wanted. But like, that didn't happen until last year. I was 44, I was 44. You're welcome. I was 44, right? And it's very easy. You're going to cry.
No, I'm not going to cry. Shut up.
Shut up. Like, depending on how you look at it, like, I could have easily, when the guys who came along that weren't right, when the experiences came along that were very much undesired, like, I could have easily have banged the drum of, I'm a failure, I'm a failure, I'm a failure. I didn't, right? And this is the one thing that I train myself on, is like, some things don't work. And yes, they fail, they don't work. Doesn't mean that the identity piece.
That's a great thing to mention.
I'm a failure.
Yeah, identifying with you. And this is like, as we spoke to today, iteration. Keep changing.
Yeah, like,
rather than failure.
Yeah, like when, and this takes a lot of like mind training as well as tuning in. Like, this is why I love in this work, like working with the spiritual body, like just helping people connect to their higher self, right? Because their higher self, when they connect with it, they immediately just feel love. Everything is okay. All is well, right? Say that 4 bodies, spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical. The physical and the spiritual. On this side, the identity through the spiritual body is, I'm light. Like, I don't even need to love myself because I am love. I'm already love. I'm peace. I'm light, right? And then on the other side, there's the Brona personality, identity, and she's going to think very differently if she's not aware of this here. Like, the identity of Brona, the identity that would have been, like, want to call it inherited, because stuff gets passed down from generations. Like, when things used to go wrong for me, what would come up is, this means that I'm a failure, I'm a fraud, I'm a this, I'm a that, right? And then things would happen. And when you go and connect with the truth of what you are, which is pure spirit and light, and it was like, right, how about when things go wrong, instead of me replaying the old program, that I'm a failure, this, that, and the other, you know, which on a day, if I feel disconnected from the truth of what I am, which is pure spirit, like that can just automatically go off, you know. But what if I use every single opportunity to affirm the truth? Like, I'm a powerful spiritual being. Because a lot of us, like, and I'll say it for me, you know, I started tapping into this more spiritual side of life. But if a problem came up, I was just Brona. Like, do you know what I mean?
Everywhere there's a problem, Brona turns up.
Yeah. Whereas when you step back and when you are very much connected to the truth of what you are, and I love visioning, and in visioning, I will always include this is how I feel, this is who I'm letting interpret things, spirit rather than, you know, personality. And so, say in particular, like with my love life, I had a very clear vision for what it is I was looking for, and not in terms of the external. He's this height, he drives this car, he's got this many houses. None of that was on there.
Thought you'd be fucked. 4'2"
A
and have
bald
to
ginger was not on me, but no, but
and cycles a bike.
yeah, like what I put down was the inside out,
Yeah.
where this is how I feel. And if this is how I feel in the relationship, these are some of the qualities he has. He's loyal. He's intentional. He's, you know, he's on his own path. He's very much committed to love for his own sake. He's not doing it for me. He's doing it for himself. I get to benefit. Like, I was very clear. And then from that, and it was a powerful vision, right? And like, I was really, I think 2017 is when I started getting really committed to this, right? And from then, I had experiences that, like, they weren't good at all, at all, at all, at all. Like a mix of lies, betrayal, like just really unhealthy, meeting with really unhealthy unconsciousness in males, right? But instead of going, why is this always happening to me? I'm a failure. Maybe this is all I'm worthy of. I didn't go there at all. That wasn't in the picture anymore. It was like, how is this helping me? How is this serving me? What in me is resonating? What shitty behavior in me or pattern or thought or feeling is resonating with that treatment? And I had to really, like, you know, look at that and stop making it mean the old story. You know, I had the new one. And then as well as that, like, yeah, I started tuning into safety. I started tuning into safety. And you know what? The whole love thing stopped being about a partner and became about me. I was like, do you know what? I just want to feel love in my system. Not because there's someone sitting in front of me, but I want to wake up and feel love. I want to feel love. I want that to be a regular emotional baseline. I want it to be very accessible for me in my own body, not because of anything going on out here, but because that's what I'm bringing to everything going on out here. And I made it about that. And then you sailed in.
Choo.
But in terms of that, like, if I had been looking at what was showing up, and like some of them, as I said, very undesirable. Some of them, I see it all the time. I listen to other women's conversations. I have friends. And when you hear some of the stuff that goes on and you see them beating themselves up, that's where I'm like, no, you're not a failure. Like, just because things don't work doesn't mean you're a failure. It just means you have to clean up. Clean up what in you was meeting with that.
And that embodies your work. What you're saying is you get people to turn in, power in you. You change the frequency, you stop the lies, you stop the debauchery, you stop the habits, the behaviors that are creating that energy and that frequency in you. And when they start to subside, things start to magnetize towards you. And it expels the things that don't serve you well, the drinking, the partying, the people, and all of a sudden these beings turn up in your life, whether they're partners, whether they're friends. your world start to change when you start to change that frequency inside you, right?
Yeah, yeah. And what I will say, because a lot of the majority of those that would come to me, they're not even regularly drinking anymore. Like a lot of clients that I would work with, they're on their path already. They're already they quite a strong, a lot of them have quite a strong like spiritual practice, or they're into personal growth. They're just at the point where I'm doing all the things. I've read all the books, I've gone to all the retreats, I've done all the meditations, I've worked with other coaches, I've gone to counseling, I've done this, that, and the other. Why do I still feel lost? Why is this stuff still coming up?
In and
Right.
down, in and down.
So this is where this work is going for me, you know? And this is where like we're getting into the real subtleties. Like getting it like, because when you're out, like, if you know, being debaucherous and everything, like it's so visible, right? But then there's when we start like clearing away that stuff, so we're not doing anything externally, we might be looking like we are like so have our shit together, you know what I mean?
Like a duck.
Yeah.
The
yeah, yeah,
legs
yeah,
are
yeah.
gone 90.
Yeah, whereas it starts getting really subtle. And that's where, like, even with everything that I knew, even with everything that I was practicing, like, I hit that point. Where are we now? Like let's say 2 years ago, I hit that point where I was like, hang on a second, right? There's things that aren't working here. And that ego stopping strategy and the subtleties, like, yeah, I had to really take a look at them. I had to really take a look at them. And like, what's really powerful, right, is we know that like a lot of people come to me and they're like, I just want to shine my light. I want to share my gifts. I want to stand in my value, stand in my worth. I don't want to play small. Um, I'm doing all this stuff. I don't want the past to keep grabbing me back. Like, you know, and I'll even get it from clients like, I'm sick of the past holding me back. And it's like, and again, there's a slight victim energy in there of like, the past is holding me back. And it's like, no, like the power really, really, really is here. And when you make how you feel the priority, and like I will put my hand up, right? And that's why, you know, I work with the likes of Tommy, because he's holding me to like pay attention to yourself, because it's so easy for me, you know, to be working with people and to get into helping mode where the attention isn't on me the whole time. To really pay attention, like, what are you feeling? Like, what are you feeling right now? Because it's so important. Like that experiment that was done with regards to scientists measuring light.
Kobayashi,
Okay. Excuse you.
2009. Excuse me, Kobayashi. Yeah, he put people in a CDD camera and they measured the light emitting from the cells emit a light.
Yeah.
And they can measure based on
And what gets in the way of that light?
cortisol.
And what's cortisol then?
Stress hormone.
Yeah, yeah. So it's so important to pay attention to the stress, right? And just to give you an example, because I have a lot of people, like I have people who've come to me being like, I want to know what my purpose is, right? Grant, I can help you with that. Then there's the people, and it was me 2 years ago, where I'm doing the purpose work, like I am using my gifts in the world, but I'm stressed, I'm overwhelmed, I still have an addiction to guilt, like that's still coming up, there's doubt coming up. And this is where, like, even knowing that I'm not in my light, if all of that is still moving around my system, I'm just not, right? So paying attention to like how you feel is absolutely everything. It gets, and even it, like it's a practice, because there's still times I might have stuff going on and I slightly override it, but it's so important to pay attention to like what you're feeling, and yeah, paying attention to that stuff, because you can be doing your purpose work, but if you're stressed, overwhelmed, you're not doing your purpose work. Your purpose, first and foremost, is to be you. Your purpose, first and foremost, is to be you standing in your light. Like I've always said it, your purpose is like your soul's path is when you're walking from your shadow into your light. That is your purpose. And sometimes people think, oh, this thing, the work I'm doing is my purpose. Hence, purpose is a doing thing. It's not a being thing. But it's actually, no, you could be doing that, but you're not being it. And if you're being it, that's where the change comes. When you're being it. And again, this is something I'm really seeing, because there was even, was it, I don't know, a couple good few weeks ago before Christmas where I had something coming up and you hugged me. And it was such a lovely, warm hug, right? And our hearts, you know, we got into heart coherence, right? And I literally, here I am feeling emotional, but we got into heart coherence, and then very clear words of advice came in, a very clear message. And it was so eye-opening to me how when we get into our hearts, that's where the clarity, the coherence, like I've worked with, you know, brilliant women who are here, you know, running businesses, doing amazing things. But it's very easy to say, you know, I'll do this thing and I'll be clear, or it's very easy to stay on the busy train, even though they're technically doing healing work. But it's like, just stop, get into your heart, and like the clarity that you're looking for, the direction that your business is supposed to be moving in, that you know, that information is there. There's so much information that you're struggling to find, that if you just stop doing everything and make it a priority to be in your heart, it's there.
And that's where that light starts to emanate brighter. Because when we deal with the hormones of stress, the cortisol, the worry, the behaviors that don't serve us well, our light that we emanate diminishes. And when we get into the heart, which is oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine, the light starts to emit. So we're here to be a light worker. We are light. You start emanating like a lighthouse, which we're supposed to be. And all of those behaviors and those conversations and those patterns, they diminish and they lower a light. So you may be saying you're doing your purpose and your passion or whatever, but you're emanating like a dark corner.
Yeah, like
And that's no judgment, by the way. That's
yeah,
just because I was that soldier.
Yeah.
Claiming I could help people, and I was fucking emanating darkness. Unconsciously, by the way.
Yeah. Like it's just, yeah, like it's unconscious, but it can be subtle. Like if you're,
Sneaky.
it's so sneaky. It's so sneaky, you know?
We have been through some situations together.
What ones are you thinking of now?
No, I'm just saying, like, let's talk a little bit about the relationship. I think actually this is a podcast episode in itself. Our getting together.
Yeah.
Like really, like the honesty, the integrity.
It was good.
Like talk about moving stuff when you start doing the work. People think they can meditate and they'll find a relationship. Yeah, you may find it, but then I need you to go a little bit deeper with this work.
Yeah. Or you could find it, but if you haven't done the internal work, you'll push it away. I would have pushed love away. I wasn't ready for it. I was afraid of it.
And it's interesting, when we first got together, the thing that I said to you was maybe we're here to teach each other safety, or
to help each other be safe.
To help each other be safe. And that was fundamental to me, fundamental to my system actually, because my system didn't feel safe.
Yeah.
And you would have experienced the same thing?
Yeah, I remember that conversation because just so everybody knows, we were we met in a group. We were in a group that meditates
Yeah.
and that like, there was
It's a cult.
no
It's a cult. It's a cult. I got signed up to a cult. I'm joking.
um like yeah, we met in a group of people who love to meditate, and we would have been on online gatherings where I had seen your face. You had seen mine. I had seen your face. But then we met at a gathering that was in person, and we were friends. We were friends for maybe about 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, for about 6 weeks. So there was a period of time where we were dancing in between, but we were regularly seeing each other. And there was one time you had asked me a question, right? As he does, because he's very inquisitive. Why is that?
Yeah. I'm direct.
Yeah. And I had been with a lovely lady who does colonics.
Yeah.
I do colonics every once in a while. And she's brilliant. And something had been going on. And she's like, oh, that's where you tend to go to hide in your body. And you were like, what are you hiding from? And I was like, can't really tell him, can I? Like, I was sitting there going, oh, fear, hiding from fear. But deep down, I knew what the answer was. And I remember being like, I can't tell him. I can't tell him. And then it was the next day, maybe. And I was like, do you know what? I'm going to tell him, because if this isn't the man for me, just the practice of being vulnerable with someone that I felt I could be safe with, because I remember seeing you online for the first time, and the thought that went through my head was, Jesus, there'd be no hiding from him.
No.
Right? But you see, I had been with men who didn't really see me because I didn't want to be seen. I wasn't comfortable. I didn't feel safe being seen, all this stuff, right? So with you, I already felt safe. I felt safety in the friendship too. And we'd already spoken about pretty deep things, in your past, in my past. So there was a safety there. And I was like, do you know what? I'm just going to tell him. So I remember messaging you, and I was like, look, you were asking me what I was afraid of, so I'm going to tell you. And it was so like, here it is. And
I remember you sent it a Saturday morning.
I
I remember the message well.
do you?
Yes, I do.
I
Because it's what I liked about you. I knew you'd done the Power in You coaching, you said all these things and you spoke beautifully. But I was like, can't she be vulnerable? Can't she show me her heart? Can you show me her heart?
Yeah.
Are you going to speak from the heart? Are you going to allow me in? Because I'll let you in
Yeah.
as best I can.
Yeah.
And you did.
Yeah.
I was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
right,
Yes.
love it.
Yeah, I remember leaving the message, and at one point there's tears coming and I had to stop. But I was essentially just being like, you know what? I'm afraid. Oh, I could nearly even crying out myself. Like, I'm afraid of being in a relationship. I'm afraid of, I think, I can't even remember the exact, but I'm afraid of not being enough, or like, I'd have to listen to that message again, because I know it was a fear around being in a relationship with a man.
Of course.
But I was like, I've never had before. Like, I've never been in love before. And I think a part of me was a little bit like uncomfortable. It was like, oh, because I haven't done it in the past, does that mean I can do it in the future? But I was like, screw it. I'm just going to be honest, because it's the truth. And I remember sending you that, and you sent back a lovely, lovely, lovely message. You just, yeah, it was lovely, and it was very freeing. And again, I shared it being like, I'm practicing, and now it doesn't mean that, if you're listening to this, just you go and find a man and practice being vulnerable with them. Like, we had already, there was a very safe container in the friendship that we
And we are
had.
both safe within ourselves. We've done
Yeah,
lots of work, and
yeah, that was in me
we're
first.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. No, that's really important to say because, what I can see happening is like maybe 33-year-old or 35-year-old Brona hearing this exact story and being like, right, I'm gonna practice vulnerability, but I don't feel safe in myself. And because of that, I go and tell someone, and because I'm not connected to safety, like I don't have the intuition to say, well, they're not exactly the safe person here. Don't
Yeah,
do it.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
just jump in, being like, and I share, and then it ends up being a shit show. And I'm like, but I
No.
was just trying to be vulnerable, but I was
Yeah,
doing it from a lack.
yeah, yeah,
Well
yeah.
spotted, Boo.
What was really important for me in this relationship when we got together, I recognized then when I felt safe that we can get to rewrite those old stories and patterns, those
Yeah,
old relationships. Like, because I've had some relationships, a lot. And all of these were good people, but I
yeah,
ran away and hid because I was scared inside. And then when we got together and I recognized and I was really comfortable with myself at this point, that I'm gonna use this relationship so I can undo those patterns.
yeah,
And here's the thing, when you sign up for this,
yeah.
it comes up,
It does.
but you get to decide whether you're gonna leave the spot or not.
Yeah,
Or if you really want change, if you really want transformation, as you say in your work, it'll be presented in this relationship. All those old stories, all those old behaviors, and all
yeah,
those patterns, and the family history, and the biochemistry, the addiction to your past, and the shame. If you really want change, get in a relationship.
yeah.
And I'm not saying go out and do that, but if you want to really do transformational stuff, it can be done in partnership.
Yeah. Like I remember being in Thailand and meeting this couple. And I remember being like, I want to talk to you about your relationship. Like I literally used to look at couples out in the world who had, what looked like to me like good relationships, and just it was like it was unfamiliar to me. So I would just kept absorbing stories, and instead of being like, oh well, why can't I have one? I'm like, tell me about it. Like, let me just download what you have into my system. And I remember speaking to this couple, and Daniel and Mai, and I remember Daniel saying, he's like, you want to do the work. He's like, get into a relationship. And I was so single at the time. Like, I spent basically from 27 to 44, bar a few situationships. I was basically single, right? So I was single. That was 2013. So I was very single at the time. And I remember listening back on that interview and being a bit like, how dare he? There was my ego was a little bit like,
But in a Navan accent.
yeah, I don't have an accent. Um, but it's true. I get what he's saying. Like what it took for me. If you're not in a relationship and you want one, like do whatever it takes to open up to the love in you first. That was what it took for me. There was divine timing, but there was an opening up to love within me first. And from there, now I get what he's saying, because with you, there's no hiding. Like there's no, and I've even become even more aware, because when I was on my own, it was very easy to, like, just little things, just little things. Like, can I even give an example? I know we've had a few in the last few days where I'm just way more aware of my frequency, because I don't want to be putting stuff on you. I don't
And
want to be,
likewise,
you know,
we do that really well.
yeah.
We do. And now it's been a journey even within us. Can I share the story about the bedroom inside?
I don't know which one it is, but go for it. I
No.
trust you.
Just basically we were lying there and we weren't long together.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah,
you
yeah.
asked me had I got a Hoover.
Yes.
Right, so have you got a Hoover? I didn't realize that I had an unconscious belief that I'm dirty, smelly. That's just what boys do. They don't care about cleaning. They're dirty, and I'm dirty, and I'm horrible, and all this kind of stuff. This was said from a very young age from unconscious people, and it's not a blame thing. That was just handed on down to them, and I didn't know this to be embedded in my system so deeply. And when you said to me the Hoover, I instantly found my system go click on.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I did. Why?
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
do you
Yeah.
want to know? Just do you Hoover under bed? And I said, oh no, the lady comes in, helps me clean and all this, blah, blah, blah. And you were like, does she clean under the bed? And inside I'm like, what the fuck is this? What's all this fucking about? What are you fucking did it? I can help you. And I was like, no, you're grand. Defensiveness, attack, close up, close down.
Yeah.
All to protect this unconscious story that I'm dirty, I'm smelly, I'm horrible, I'm unlovable.
Yeah.
So obviously then I defended it. We moved on, and I was lying in bed the next day or later on that evening, and it just came to me. This girl, this loving being, just wants to help, just wants me to have a clean home. She wasn't calling me dirty, wasn't calling me smelly, wasn't calling me unlovable.
Yeah.
And I had that realization, and then I was like, what the fuck do I do? I have to tell her. I have to tell you. So I rang you up and I said, listen, what you said inside of me, the story I'm telling myself was, this. Can you ask me that again? And you were like, do you have a Hoover? And I said, yeah, I'd love you to help me clean.
Yeah.
And we came and cleaned my room.
And it was great, wasn't it?
The end product was great.
Yeah.
But the feelings that were rushing through this system of mine didn't feel good at the time.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I'm cleansing, I'm cleaning, I'm fucking getting rid of old patterns and shit that doesn't serve my system well.
Yeah.
And we went at it like a Hoover on a Honda.
The hoovering.
Both. No, listen. But again, that was a pattern, that was a program that I freed myself from by turning in, acknowledging that.
Yeah.
And we done that in a live, functional moment.
Yeah, yeah. There's been a few of those. There's been loads.
Loads.
There's been loads, and yeah, like it's vulnerable. It's vulnerable, you know, but like it's about it keeps me in integrity. It's like, right, well, if you're really about this work, well then show up, you know? Show up and be seen.
Yeah. How do we help people to stop flirting with the hormones of stress about an old story that's not even true, instead of going after the hormones of love and their future that they know that will serve them? How do we do that?
Like, how do we get others to stop, or how do we stop ourselves?
Yeah. We do the work in service of other people.
Yeah. So
for ourselves, they do their work, and we come together.
Step one is
left leg in, left leg out.
It's being aware.
Werewolf.
Yeah, I know. That's why I was like, it's being aware.
Wolf.
Yeah, like step one is being aware. Step one, like literally, if it's paying attention, what's going on in your body? Like the body will always tell you. Your mind can be like I love the saying, and this is by Matthew Hussey, who's I think he's a dating coach, who when I was in the world of dating was like, don't listen to what they say, listen to what they do. And I was even sharing that with clients on a call, you know, because our egos can have the best intentions, but it's like, watch what we're actually doing, listen to what we're doing. So if you're saying something is important to you, but then it's not happening, it's like, it's just becoming aware. What's going on? What am I feeling in my body? Pay attention to the body, because the body is expressing. Sometimes people don't even know what they're feeling, but it's like just becoming aware of what's going on in the body. And so I'm becoming aware of the thoughts. Like, what am I believing that's not true? What's the story, right? So that is step one. Then, are you talking about in a relationship or just with ourselves?
In ourselves, always in ourselves, and then we become in the union. So it's within ourselves.
Yeah, and the question is, how do we stop?
How do we stop flirting with those
Yeah.
hormones of stress, those chemicals, about a seemingly difficult past when it wasn't true? Why don't we flirt with oxytocin, serotonin, and that?
Yeah, like it's a choice. Like we as humans have
Right.
been given free will. Like we're the only species that has, I think it's in the frontal lobe of the brain, and it is the part of the brain that there's free will, but it can also open up and be open to possibilities. Like we've been given that, right? So number one, it's just awareness. And I love that quote by Carl Jung about unless you make the unconscious conscious, you will forever call it fate, right?
Okay, beautiful.
So that's the first step. Now, this is going to differ for people, but this is how I would do it. Second, it's knowing if I don't want to be doing this, what do I want to be doing?
Right.
What am I open to? Like, what's the vision? What do I want? How do I want to feel, most importantly? And then it's about like seeing every time something crops up or something so called negative comes up, that's where the portal, that's the doorway into the new. This old thing isn't coming up to hold you back. This old thing, this situation is coming back. So you get to like step through into the new. And the only way you can, the new just doesn't show up. The first time the new starts showing up is in you, right? And I'll often say to clients, like when things feel like they're breaking down, I'm like, that's the new just looking to emerge, right? So it's helping, clean up what's in the way. And yeah, like it's using those times as opportunities. And again, what I'm learning to do, because for a deeply feeling person, this is something that I'm now training myself into, like just the feeling or the thought comes in and just immediately being like, no, no, right? Now, hear me when I say that. Like, I do this with those emotional patterns that are repetitive, that are looking to hijack the goodness in the present moment, that are looking to bring in the old. Like, I'm not saying you do this if you're sitting down to have a session with someone, like, this is very different to bypassing. Like you do this at the point where you have the understanding. This is what's going on. This has been the feeling in the past. This is what I'm thinking. Da 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 da. This is when you are literally going to install the new program, and it just requires that vigilance. And I've even had it with you. Where I'll be going about the house, and we're now living together. And so there's things that you do that I'm not used to, right? And there's conditioning in my body that will automatically move into frustration, irritation, agitation, or anger if things aren't the way that I want them to be.
Yeah, me too.
Right? And so in that, like, in that instance, like I know I know this is not a good pattern. This is a pattern that's actually in the way of the love. It's in the way of the joy. And so in that moment, it's like that's what I'm looking to literally just cut, and this is again, stuff that I am working with Tommy on, just like snipping, like choop, you know what I mean?
Brilliant.
And just being really vigilant of like, no, you're not coming in and hijacking. No, you're not coming in and ruining me day. You're like, enough,
Enough.
Yeah, and just being really clear, and really intentional, really focused. This is what I'm opening up to. This is what is important to me. I'm not letting that distract me from this.
Beautiful. I can't believe, well, I can believe because we could talk for hours. We're nearly coming up to 2 hours. In all of that conversation.
Yeah.
What is the one thing that you would love people to take away from this conversation?
You are powerful. And when I say that, like each human being, like is inherently powerful. And if you want change, you have everything within you in order to be able to make that change. And it's not always the easiest thing to do. Like it is difficult, but at the same time, when you keep it simple and just know that you can change, like humans have been given something that no other species have been given, and that's free will and the ability to be able to tune in to and open up to new possibilities. Like that is in the frontal lobe of the brain. No other species has that. Like you have that capacity and you can use it to create change, and you are powerful beyond belief. And at the same time, part of tapping into that power means that those parts of you that are unconscious or operating from a place of shadow power, they will come up, but nothing is happening to hold you back. Like the body will, crop up, it will bring stuff up, but that stuff, like the body is reflecting what's gone on in the past, and the body isn't tuned in enough into the future that you're looking to create. So like just knowing that stuff is going to come up, but it's not proof that for you to stop. It's not the proof for you to give up. And in fact, if you are listening to this, like take this as the proof that there's more for you. Like everybody has within them the capacity and the power to be able to, be living in power, be living in light, be living in love, peace, whatever it is, like it's there. So don't be put off by the stuff that inevitably will crop up, but like that's yeah, don't buy into it. It literally is a powerful opportunity to deactivate the past and step into the future that you do want.
Fantastic. How do you like them apples? Amazing, amazing. For anybody that has listened to this and wants to get in contact, you may want to work with you. Where can they find you? What have you got on offer? Let us know a little bit about that.
Okay. Well, firstly, what I will say, if anybody has any questions based on anything that we've shared, like get in touch, because I do love, getting
You
people's
do.
questions and takeaways and ahas. And even the stuff that you're maybe a little bit unsure of, like get in touch. That's the first thing. And you can contact me. I have a website. It's www.bronamalone.com, and Brona is spelled BronaMalone. And that's also where you'll find me on Facebook as Brona Malone, and then Business Power New Coaching, and then on Instagram as well. So you can contact me on those. As well as that, something that you and I are running together is what is so far been like a monthly gathering, but it's a regular gathering called Love, Breath and Miracles. And it's where you're bringing your expertise, I'm bringing my expertise, and we're just looking to create a space for people to drop into if they're just simply looking to connect with themselves. It's a beautiful, beautiful space. I love the breath work you offers. You offer, I always say that. And so that's something if you want to even just come, meet, and hang out with us.
When is the next event?
The next event is happening Sunday, 23rd of February.
And
23rd.
March as well. So we have
Yeah.
them every month. So the next one will be February the 23rd. It's in the Digital Hub.
In Dublin 8.
In
Yeah.
Dublin 8, 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock. If you're interested,
Get
send
in
us a
touch,
message. We'll
yeah.
send you a link.
Yeah, because you have to book in advance.
Yeah.
And that is required just so we can get you prepared for the event.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that leaves me to say thanks very much. Thanks, Brownie.
You're
I would
welcome.
absolutely love to sit back down with you again and do another interview, have another chat. But this time, more about our relationship, the work that we are doing together within this relationship. People do the meditation and meditations, they'll go see the counselor, the gurus, and all this. And when they get into a relationship, all this old stuff, all these old patterns, all these old belief systems, all these old fears will rise up in us and prevent us from fully showing up in these relationships. But what Brona does, what I do with people, help them to take away those clouds, take away those patterns, just like the sun. When we take away the clouds, the sun is always there. Our peace is there. Our love is there. And that's what we bring to the relationship. And then that person mirrors what we already are, which Brona is love and peace and joy. And we get to enjoy it. But the stuff will come up.
Yeah.
And that's what we, myself and Brona, will help you navigate through, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Here's the thing. When I was single, I always loved hearing other people's experiences of, you know, when they were in like a healthy romantic partnership relationship. And I'd love hearing about how they got together. Like there's some women in particular who I don't even know, but they help me, like they help me still believe in love when it wasn't showing up. That wasn't my experience. But they just were like, you know, lights on the path. So I do, like, I absolutely love stories. And I love our love story. And I thought it was a very beautiful coming together, getting together, you know.
There'll be a bit of crack in that.
There will be.
And there's learning in it, because that's what we share at Love Brett Miracles. We tell, and I'm honest and open about stuff that I go through, the thoughts I have, the feelings I have, the things I want to do and behave. I share that with you, and Brona might get a little bit embarrassed sometimes because I go for it. So if you are someone that wants to work with Brona, give her a shout, or maybe if you'd like to know a little bit about what I do, I help people navigate and explore parts of themselves that they're finding difficult right now. And as I say, we take away the clouds, and there you are. I use different modalities, whether we sit here and have a real and honest conversation about life, or maybe you want to try breathwork, psychedelic breathwork, I can take you through that as well. Give me a shout, I'd love to help you.
And can I say one thing?
Yeah.
Just
One
even,
thing.
yeah, two things maybe. Even the feedback that you get from the workshops that you run, whether it's companies that you're going into or schools, like Matt will actually get like, you know, messages from parents because what he shared when he went into their schools. So if that's the kind of stuff you're interested in as well, get in touch.
Thanks. Yeah, like sometimes I don't like to talk about these things.
Nobody does. Nobody likes to actually, it can be uncomfortable when to stand in your light.
Yeah, and then I also like to let things happen organically as well. The world will present me with opportunities. I go into prisons. Last year I was in Arbor Hill Prison. I was in other children's prisons. I was in schools, and they just present themselves, because that's my calling, my residency, my energy will bring that forth, and I trust the path. So that's the crack, right? That's a wrap. Please share this with family and friends. We love your support. We're on YouTube and all the podcast platforms. Before I go, I want to say a big thanks to this dude over here. He's my main sponsor, my main man, Niall Riley from Rooney Media Graphics. He's been with me from day dot. You know, he's helped me with the design of this wrap and all that's to do with Magic Minds, the Magic Minds Foundation. So if you need any graphic design work done, any wraparounds for your cars or vans or calendars or posters or company logos, he is your man. Incredible work, incredibly professional. So check them out, Niall Riley, Rooney Media Graphics. And then last but not least, Shannon's Hope Line, Lisa and Sandra Callers, they're unsung heroes in the Dublin A area for their suicide prevention, their work on mental health with children at a grassroots level. They're amazing human beings. So give them your support, and if you'd like to donate some money, please do. So that's a wrap. Thanks very much for staying with us. Please share this with family and friends. And as always, don't forget to mind your little self. Give yourself a little hug and be kind and gentle to yourself. Thanks, Brona Malone. I love you.
Thank you, Matt Burke. I love you too.
Take care. Bye.
I will run, I will climb, I will soar. I'm undefeated. Oh, jumping out of my skin, pull the cord. Yeah, I believe it. Oh, the past is everything we were. Don't make us who we are. So I'll dream until I make it real, and all I see is stars. It's not until you fall that you fly. When your dreams come alive, you're unstoppable. Take a shot, chase the sun, find the beautiful. We will glow in the dark, turning dust to gold.